Okay folks, we are heading out on a couple of rush serves that we just got in. It's a couple of businesses, shouldn't be a problem, except they're out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And it's a subpoena duce tecum, or subpoena to produce, for both of these businesses. Neither one of the businesses are directly involved in the cases, and they're not the plaintiff or the defendant. However, they do have some association with it, so we have to go out and serve them. I do have my body cam on, as you can see here, which I do wear that. I can just hit a button right here on the side when I'm wearing it like this, and I can catch all of the video. But I do that on all of my serves. I wear this. I also will wear this camera when I'm doing interviews, and a lot of times if I'm interfacing with the general public in just about any way, if I'm going out and talking with people or doing a neighborhood canvas or anything like that, I'm going to have something, this one or one of my other ones, on. If you want more information on this cam, you can check it out on my website, freeprivateinvestigatortraining.com, and you can go to the PI gear link up in the top menu there. And I'll let you know how this serve goes once I get it done, okay? This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. Well, folks, that one went pretty smooth, the first one. Let's hope the next one goes just as smooth. Got a ways to go before we get to that one. Kind of out here on some rough roads, so if you hear that background or if the camera's shaking, I apologize for that. When we get out here on these serves way out in the middle of nowhere, well, you kind of got to deal with what you got to deal with. This one was pretty easy. The subject was actually in the barn outside, or one of the barns. There were several buildings there, but I was able to just pull up, saw a lot of equipment. There were several dogs around, but they looked friendly. I always test them a little bit, roll my window down, kind of like whistle a little, something like that, tap the side of my car and see how they respond. They were barking a little, but they looked plenty friendly enough. There were a lot of workers around. It's a pretty large operation out there. So I figured I was probably safe, and I got out, walked over to one of the barns. I thought I heard some voices, and I just hollered hello, and I heard a couple of people say hello back. I asked for the subject by name and was told that he was there, and they said, well, you can come around on the other side of the trailers. And so I did that, and there they were. They were working on some animals and stuff. They were a little busy, so I wasn't going to bother them too much. I just told them I had some paperwork. I had a subpoena duce tecum for the subject, and laid it there on the bench next to where they were working. And they said thanks, and they did mention my camera. That was funny. A lot of people do that. They saw the camera and like, well, I guess I can't deny I got it. And I said, yeah, that probably wouldn't be something I would suggest that you do. And then I went. They're very friendly. So that is the ideal one, especially on rush ones. They can get a little dicey sometimes. And I always worry when I take these rush ones, am I going to be able to get enough attempts in to do due diligence? Because I've got today and I've got tomorrow, and that's it to serve them. And they are businesses, but they're businesses located at residences in the country. So the individuals could easily be off on vacation or out on a business trip or something like that, and they could essentially try to duck service. So I may have to go back multiple times, 3 or 4 times over the course of a couple of days, driving way out here in the middle of nowhere. So we do charge an up fee for these. I have to look at the roads and make sure I know where I'm going. I don't have my GPS running right now, but I do charge an up fee, a considerable up fee for these. If they're what we call same-day rush, even though I have 2 days, it's still considered a same-day rush, because I don't want to just rely on tomorrow. An expedited service would have the second business day or tomorrow as the first potential attempt, but an expedited doesn't guarantee that we're going to get anything, and nothing really guarantees we're going to get the serve done, even a rush serve. But I do tell them that we will try at least 2 attempts, but I will always try 3. I always under promise and over deliver, if you will. I tell them I'll do 2 attempts, but I will usually do 3 attempts on ones like this, just to try to make sure that we can try to satisfy the client's needs, as well as satisfy due diligence for the court. Sometimes if you just go out on a couple of attempts, the court will say, well, I don't think you tried hard enough. But if it's ones like this that are way out in the middle of nowhere and you have to drive, nearly an hour to get there, the court may or may not accept it. It's really going to depend on the court. And if the client's kind of a pain, then they're going to get their 2 attempts, and that may be it. But I'll usually try more. Most of my clients are not a pain. If I think they're a pain, I'm not going to take the work. It's just that simple. Anyway, we're heading over to the second one. We'll be there in a little while, and I'll let you know how that one goes. Hey folks, I thought I would talk a little bit about the process that we use for our serve company, since I've got quite a drive ahead of me here to get to the next location. I use a software program for my serves called Serve Manager, and I think somebody had asked me that in one of the questions on my channel, and I believe that I might have answered that in one of my recent live streams on Saturday morning. But I use a software called Serve Manager. It's from a company called Logical, Lawgical, I believe that's how they spell it, Logical. They're based out of Denver, I believe, but they are a national company. Anybody can use them. In fact, there are hundreds, probably thousands of process servers and private investigators that use various services of theirs around the country. And this isn't a plug for them. They're not a sponsor for the channel yet. If anybody from Logical is listening and you would like to talk to me about that, feel free to give me an email, reach out to me. But I use their software, and it's really nice because I can put all of my serves into Serve Manager. I enter all the data in. It's really nice the way they have it set up, because it remembers things like your court information. So once you do a serve for papers out of one court, when you go to do serves in the future for that court, it's going to be able to pull that information right out of the database and populate the job for you. As well, it will remember your clients, it will remember plaintiffs, it will remember defendants, people that were served, things like that. But one of the big things about it is I can upload all of my documents for the serve, and then I assign those out to my process servers. And I have several subcontract process servers around the state that I utilize for different serves in their particular areas. And I can assign it to them, and then they can download it right there. I can see their activity. They can enter in notes. I can enter in notes. I can also send notes from that to the client if I need to do that. But when they go out and do the serve, like I just went out and did this serve, when I got done with the serve, now it was on a country property, so I pull out onto the public road and I pull down a little ways, not too far. But then I grab my phone and I can document the serve, and it has drop-down menus for everything, and all of this is customizable. I have all the different ways that I can serve. In this particular one, I can say that it was personally served, and then it grabs the GPS data off of my phone, and it puts the latitude and the longitude right there in the database. So if I'm ever challenged about whether I was there or not there, it has it right there. And another feature it has is you can take photos and you can upload them automatically. So if somebody posts something, if it's an eviction paper or something like that, and you post it, the process server can just take a picture right there and upload it through the app, so it's right there. They don't have to email it and do things like that. So it makes it really, really simple. Well, folks, just left the location for the second serve. Unfortunately, the subject that I was looking for at this one wasn't there. It is a business, but I need to serve a particular individual at the business, so I couldn't leave it with anybody else because it's a subpoena. It's one of the things when you're doing process serves, you need to make sure that you understand all the laws and the rules and the regulations for the state where you're at, and any jurisdictions and any requirements from any of the courts that you're serving papers out of. But we'll have to come back to that one in a little while. I did talk to one of the workers there. He did identify to me which one of the houses that the subject that we're looking for resides in. There's a lot of houses, a lot of different buildings on the property, but he was able to identify to me which one our subject resides at, and from that I was able to ascertain that that nobody was home. I knocked and nobody was there. There was no vehicles up close. There was a couple pairs of rubber work boots there on the front porch, which is a telltale for me. That tells me that they're probably not out, feeding the cattle or anything like that, because their work boots are right there on the front porch. But they weren't there, and it is getting close to lunchtime. It's about 11:30 in the morning. I usually try to do these before lunchtime or mid-afternoon to early evening if possible, or I'll come out in the evening. So I'll come out sometime later today, and we'll see if we can't get this taken care of, and I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, folks, well, it's a little later in the day now. I'm just starting to get to be evening. Just left the location on that second serve we had. Again, had no answer there. There was a lot of other people at some of the other homes. I talked to a couple people, and they did not know when our subject might be home. There's a lot of vehicles around the property, but there was none parked up by the garage, and there were no lights visible inside. So, and there's no reason for me to think that this individual may be ducking service. They're not a party to the case, so we'll be, I guess, coming back out. One of the things we do on these types of rush serves like this, we usually only do 2 attempts, but like I said, sometimes I'll try a third. So I'll probably come back out tomorrow morning a little bit earlier and see if I can't catch him, because it is a farm operation out here. But he could just be gone. He could be on summer vacation or something like that. Who knows? As I was driving back from this serve, it reminded me of another serve I had back a while back. That was way out in the country, and I thought I'd tell you a little bit about this one. And usually on these serves in the country, I try to send a 2-man team out there, a 2-person team out there. And I actually have a 2-person team that I usually subcontract with a lot of this stuff. On this one, I didn't feel like it was absolutely necessary, and it was a rush, so I took care of it myself. But this one, it was clear out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I am serious. It was up by the Wyoming border. I mean, I'm out on a dirt, and I'm serious, a dirt road, not a gravel road, a dirt road. I was glad it was the middle of the summer. It wasn't rain. I probably would have never been able to make it down that road. But I get down to the residence, to the entry of the residence, and the drive is over a half a mile long, and it's a windy drive going down, and then there's just a cluster of trees down at the bottom, and I can't really see anything down there. The driveway was actually even better than the road. It was gravelled. So I get down there, and I'm coming around the back end, and there's a couple of barns, and there's several cattle pens and stuff, and this is all ranch land out there. A lot of ranches out there. If I remember right, the guy that I was looking for, this was his dad's farm, his dad's ranch, and he literally had hundreds and hundreds of acres out there. As I'm coming around the back end of it, looking for that back porch, looking to see where I can go, lo and behold, here's 2 guys coming out of a field on horseback, and they both have rifles right there on the saddles of their horses. And they were both, I kid you not, they both had a 6-shooter strapped to their waist too. This is just like out of the old West days. And I come around to the back. I find an area where I can get turned around, and I'm going to get out of my car. And I did have somebody with me on this one. And we put our windows down and stuff. And I get out of the car and I look over to the back porch, and there's an older guy sitting there in a chair, and he's got a rifle leaning up against the wall, and yes, he has a 6-shooter strapped to him, and then there's another guy standing there that he's talking to, and he's got a 6-shooter strapped to him. And this is very common out there. I mean, they have coyotes and all kinds of other things, and it's open range area, and most of them open carry, and it was a little intense. My mind is like, oh no. But I know I'm looking for this guy's son, and I know this guy's son had some criminal history on him, and I know that him and the rest of the family, the guy that owns the property, didn't have any. So I just approach him cautiously, and I'm like, hi, I'm looking for, and I say the kid's name, and the guy that was sitting down, he stands up and he's like, oh yeah, that's my boy. And I was like, well, is he here? He goes, oh no, I don't know where he is. He got out of jail about 6 months ago, said something about going to Texas or something, but we never even saw him. He never came out. We talked to him on the phone, and then he started saying, I don't really care if he even does ever come around and stuff like that. So I believe he wasn't there, and we were questioning whether he might be there or not, just given a lot of the circumstances. And we weren't there for him from a criminal standpoint. He was a witness in a case, but we really needed to talk to him. We did end up finding him about 6 months later in a little town in Texas, and we did get him served, but it was a little hairy situation. So that's one of those, if you're doing rural serves, you really want to be careful of how you approach him and what you do and things like that. And that's one of those where I wasn't going to get out of my car and act like a big tough guy or anything like that. I took my sunglasses off. I put my regular glasses on, so I'm a little less threatening looking and stuff like that. I still want to carry myself well, but I don't want to look like I'm there trying to force an issue. And I just wanted to talk to the guy and give him some paperwork, and I stood back a little ways, and I had my other process server that was with me sitting there in the car. And again, we put our windows down so everyone can see us and stuff like that. And by the time I got done talking with the dad, I turn around, I go back to my vehicle, and I have to walk past these two guys who have now dismounted off the horses, and they're standing there with their 6-shooters. And I'm serious. I'm like, oh my gosh, did I just enter Dodge City in the 1800s or something? It was pretty crazy. Anyways, I thought you might enjoy that little story. Well, folks, I got up bright and early. It's the next day here. I got up bright and early this morning and headed out here, and actually got the subject served. He was home. I noticed a couple of things there. I think I'd mentioned the boots that were on the porch. There were 2 sets that looked like a man's and a woman's. Probably his wife helps him there at the farm too, or maybe an older teenager or something. But I had noticed the boots, and one of the boots, the smaller set, was actually turned a little bit, so I figured somebody was there. And there was a vehicle there parked by the back driveway and by the back door. And that's a key thing too on these rural ones. If you're doing a lot of country serves and stuff, you have to kind of be aware of what door they may use. On these country homes, I have discovered that most of them do not use their front door like we would in the city. Everybody comes to the front door. If somebody's on my back door knocking, they've probably got a problem at my house. But if you're out in these country ones, they usually use the back door because they usually have a breezeway or a mudroom or something like that back in there, and they don't always use the front door. They might use it, the porch to sit on occasion or something like that, but they don't use it like all of us use it as our main entry. And I had one time I was training a new process server that I had working for me, and we went out on some country serves, and I had explained this to him quite a bit about using the back door and the front door and stuff. As we pulled into this one, what I thought I'd do, just as part of the training, I would see how he reacted, how he handled the situation. So I kind of parked in the driveway. It was a curved driveway. I was able to park back a little bit. And I said, I'm going to kind of park back here so my camera will catch everything and you can walk up. And he could have approached the back door or the front door from this location. And what he tried to do was go through the front yard, if you will, to get to the front porch. And the front yard was very, very unkempt. It literally had grasses and weeds and bramble and everything in there, you know, 1.5 to 2 foot deep, and he's trying to traipse through there, and you can tell he's stumbling over things and just junk laying everywhere. And then of course he gets up to the front door and he knocks on the door, and he looked back at me, and I knew when he looked back at me he was thinking, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. And he's knocking at the front door, and then I see this little old lady looking out the window at him, and she yells, come around to the back, you idiot. And yeah, he said when he talked to her, she said, yeah, we don't use that front door, it's all blocked off. And that's just a lesson. If you're doing ones out in the country, kind of know. And I don't know if that's like that everywhere, but I know around here it very much is that way. So you have to kind of know, and I always kind of scope the situation out. I look at the front door and I look at the back door, and I look to see where there's vehicles or where there's tire tracks, or like in this particular case I saw those mud boots out back. So I figured they used that back door more than they ever used that front door. That front door had no path going up to it. It had a beautiful little porch. There was a little rocking chair on it, but it didn't have the signs of it being used. There were several chairs back on the back porch and stuff. So anyway, that's it. This was a successful one. I'm glad we got it done. It took a few attempts on this one. Again, I do tell the clients on these rush ones that I do 2 attempts, but this is a good client and I want more business from them. So I did the 3rd attempt just to make sure that we had our due diligence. And sometimes you got to go out. I mean, it's not the wee hours of the morning, but I got up at dark 30 and got ready and just came out here because I know, knowing a farmer, he probably went out and did some of the chores early in the morning, 5 or something like that, and then probably back at the house for breakfast by 7 to 8 o'clock. So I'm going to be out here and try to catch him at that time. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next video.